starts right now.
Undisputed.
This is The Herd, wherever you may be, however you may be listening. We are live in Los Angeles on iHeartRadio, on Fox Sports Radio, and on FS1 right here. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are absolutely packed. Chris Sims, Nick Wright will be joining us. Joy Taylor, of course, as always, joining us. We don't consider her a guest. She's part of the fam.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, good morning. You know, I want to start with something that I think affects a lot of people listening to our show or watching our show. Sometimes professionally, our jobs, our careers, sometimes the culture changes. And it moves away from our strengths or it moves into our strengths. I hear Tom Brady retiring after the Super Bowl. In the last couple of years, I've thought about it too. Yeah, it's going to happen, right? He's getting older, and I get it, and rings, titles. But I want you to think about this. There was a talk show host, still is, named Stephen Colbert. He was dying at CBS, bombing. They were going to pull him off the air. He'd been on about 6 to 8 months. The show ratings were in the tank. He was too old and political. That was the knock on his show. Then Trump got to the White House, and the American culture changed. Politics is all anything anybody was talking about. Politics was the discussion in America. The culture in America changed, and it moved right into Stephen Colbert's wheelhouse. 2 months later, he had the #1 hottest late-night show in America. Stephen Colbert was about to get fired. The conversation and the culture moved in his direction. You see it in the NBA, where Dwight Howard's last 7 years, he's been useless. Steph Curry has been invaluable. Change eras, the opposite would be true. The NBA rules and analytics have benefited Steph Curry. Steph Curry is now what everybody is seeking. A small guy, not much size, can't defend, not very strong, but man, can he shoot threes. Dwight Howard centers. Professionally, the sport has moved away from them. This happens all the time to lots of people. People are forgetting this. The sport of football has moved toward Tom Brady and, for that matter, Drew Brees. It is now a 3-step drop. Get it out quick. Bubble screens, accuracy, precision. The American heroes in football for so many years were guys like Joe Namath and Terry Bradshaw. Brett Favre, gunslingers who made big mistakes but had powerful arms. Cam Newton, 25 years ago, had a lot of Bradshaw, had a lot of Namath, had a lot of Favre. Big personality, transformational arm, not real precise. Brett Favre in today's NFL would be mistake-prone. Joe Namath would be infuriating, much like Cam is. Rules change professionally. They often move away from people, men and women. But with Stephen Colbert, Steph Curry, Tom Brady, the culture of football is moving toward them. Arms, wildly overrated. Brees no longer throws downfield. Tom Brady doesn't have a deep threat. But defensive lines can't get to Brady, and they can't get to Brees, because it's a 3-step and get-it-out league. It's lengthening Tom's career. I watched that game against the Chargers. Forget the Kansas City game. I watched that game against the LA Chargers. And that's a loaded defense. That was, at the time, the best defense in the NFL in the last 6 weeks of the year. Are you kidding me? He took it apart. It wasn't competitive. It was 35-7 at half. And I sat on the couch and I thought, why in God's name in the new NFL would he retire? The rules are lengthening his career. The game is getting more analytical and smarter. And that brings me to what Tom Brady told Jay Glazer 2 years ago. He said, the game actually, because of the way it's played now and officiated, has never been easier.
I feel like I've worked hard to get to this point. So going into my 18th year, I've learned a lot.
I've learned, have had the experiences, played the defense, played in the big games. And I still feel like I can perform at a really high level. So I think now this is the time to really start having fun. I mean, every time I go on the field, I feel like, all right, well, I know what to do. I know how to do it. I know where to go with the ball. And, football is in some ways easier now for me than it ever was because, it's just, I've been doing it longer. I've had the experience. And, hopefully that experience can pay off.
It has. Professionally, sometimes it all moves away from you. And sometimes it all moves toward you. It's moved toward Tom. Win or lose the Super Bowl, he's not retiring. Let me shift to this. This weekend there was a really, really big play, and everybody's talking about it. The Saints were robbed in the Super Bowl. I can't believe it. Should have been pass interference. It wasn't called. That actually, to me, I picked the Rams and thought they were the better team, wasn't the most life-altering play of the weekend. The most life-altering play of the weekend happened in Kansas City. The play got a defensive coordinator fired, took away Patrick Mahomes' Super Bowl, continued Andy Reid's struggling postseason legacy, gave Tom Brady a 9th Super Bowl. It was the play where Dee Ford was simply up offsides.
Hands in the pocket. Flags out. Ball's picked. Ball's intercepted. This could be the game right here.
Offside. Defense, number 55.
Oh, can you believe it?
That play is getting people fired, altering legacies. Dee Ford, that'll be on his resume forever. This is an organization that hadn't won a title since 7, 8 different things. Legacies, records, Super Bowls, completely altered. And there's this feeling that, Patrick Mahomes, he'll get back. Dan Marino, every bit as talented or more than Patrick Mahomes, much like Mahomes in his second year, set records and was the MVP, and then lost in the Super Bowl, and he never got back. Don't kid yourself. Aaron Rodgers got to a Super Bowl, and he's never been back. His division got better. He got more expensive. He ad-libbed too much and got hurt. I look at Aaron now. I don't know how you could pick the Packers to win that division next year. How could you? Forget the NFC. Kansas City going forward has all sorts of obstacles. The Colts have the best GM in football, 9 draft picks, over $100 million, in a quirky, dysfunctional division mostly. The Chargers, in the same division of Kansas City, have, if not the best GM, the second best GM in the league. They also finished 12-4, a great roster, and they're moving into a stadium in 2 years, which will be free agent friendly. New England has the best coach and quarterback in league history, 12 draft picks, and a very winnable division. Have you looked at Kansas City's schedule next year? I don't know the order, but I know they'll play at Chicago and at New England. And I know they'll play the Chargers twice. And I know they're going to play the Colts and the Ravens and the Packers and the Vikings. I know they're going to play 7 playoff teams and the Vikings or Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. Don't kid yourself. You think the replay, the outrage in New Orleans was the big moment of the weekend. Dee Ford simply lining up offsides, got a coordinator fired, Tom to his 9th Super Bowl. It'll never leave Dee Ford's resume. Patrick Mahomes, like a Dan Marino, has 10 to 12 great years left. There are no guarantees in the AFC. Belichick's still there, so is Brady. Colts and Chargers have great GMs. It's a tough division. Denver, well run, usually will figure out their quarterback position. That play to me, a lot of players in this league just play. A handful of them think while they play. That mental error, to me, hands down, the most transformative, life and game-altering play of the weekend. All right, good to have you in. there's been a lot of discussion this week, and it's actually been very, very interesting, about fairness in sports. I mean, we all want fairness, right? Like, you want your kids to be treated fair. You want your family to be treated fair. You want your team to be treated fair. But I think what we often see in society is the mythology of fairness. And that there is very little fairness, and you can't govern it. You can change laws. The rich were rich 50 years ago. The gap is widened today as taxes have gone up. The mythology of fairness and why the NFL overtime rule is absolutely the fairest overtime rule. That's coming up. When it comes to meat and fish, quality is pretty much everything. That's why Butcher Box is a company I sampled this weekend, and I'm in. Butcher Box is delivered right to your door every month. Meat, fish guaranteed to be humanely raised. There's no hormones, no antibiotics, grass-fed, grass-finished Butcher Box beef, chicken's organic, free range, cuts and quality impossible to find in a grocery store. It comes also at a competitive price, less than $6 a meal. I had the salmon on Sunday. That's their brand new protein.